Joining us now, the forgotten man. Yes, he is a congressional candidate for the 2nd District, trying to become the nominee. This is the seat that is now occupied by Scott Ridgel, who's retiring from Congress. By the way, Ridgel, the one who said that he would not vote for Trump if he's a nominee, or whatever, Scott. And this will be decided in a primary June 14th. And the 3 candidates vying for that are current 4th District Congressman Randy Forbes, House of Delegates member Scott Taylor, and Pat Cardwell, lawyer from Virginia Beach. Now, Pat was the first person to file. He originally was going to challenge Ridgel for the nomination before Ridgel decided not to seek a 4th term. Pat, good to have you with us.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Pat, I've given you virtually zero coverage in this race. I've called it a two-man race between Taylor and Forbes, and I've called it a toss-up. Tell me why you're significant in this race.
Well, to be truthful, John, I'm the only real constitutional conservative in the race, which I think is a very big differentiator. Secondly, I'm the only one who's not a career politician and has no desire to be a career politician. I am running for this race simply because I believe that we need some honest, accountable representation down in the 2nd District, and we need citizen legislators that are going to go up and act as if they represent the people and not themselves. And for those reasons, I don't think it's even close that I'm the really only true viable candidate in this race.
Right, but you have no name ID, Pat, to be honest, and both Taylor and Forbes are raising a lot more money, Forbes especially. So realistically, I don't see how you're viable in this race.
Well, I mean, I think you have to look at sort of the positions that, let's start with Randy Forbes and what he stands for. First and foremost, people treat him like he's the incumbent in this race when, in fact, he left his district in a lurch and is coming over into this one. And I think that, treated him like an incumbent is fine. So he's going to have the kind of money that you talked about. But the truth is, he talks about his seniority and all the things that seem to matter, but he's absolutely one of the typical Republican establishment members that we have up in Washington right now. And if you look at, like a Dave Bragg, you could have said the same thing about him when he ran against Eric Cantor. Mm-hmm. That you're saying about me right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get to some of the issues. You've got a budget deal on the table right now that some representatives that I've had on have criticized bitterly. Some say it's the best deal they could make. What say you?
Again, you're increasing spending. When you're talking about starting at a line that's above last year's spending as your bottom point, you're talking about increasing spending. And, Congressman Forbes comes out and says, he says all the time that he's never voted for a bailout. Well, that's just patently false. It's not even close to true. I would urge your listeners, it's too complex to go into on this call, but I would urge your listeners to look at the FAST Act bailout that he voted for in last December. So again, it's all about this Wizard of Oz thinking of how do they spend things behind the curtain and then come out and say something entirely different because they don't want us knowing what's going on behind the curtain. So again, the budget is one of those things that's just too important not to increase spending, and that's what they want to do.
Well, there's no question spending keeps going up. That's one of my issues with the whole Republican takeover. Nothing has changed. That's why I'm for Trump. Let's get to the international scene right now. Putin withdraws from Syria. Now, the Russians have a history of this. They go in, they get out. He doesn't want to get mired in there. There's a lot of speculation to what happened. But some people like me think he went in there to stabilize the Assad regime so that they could stay in power because that's his ally and he's got every right to do that. So my question is, if you were in Congress, would you be in favor of brokering a deal with Syria that would fight ISIS and include keeping Assad as president of Syria? Or do you take the position that anything that we do has to include the removal of Assad?
Well, here's the problem. We don't have any real teeth in any position that we take because we're not giving our men and women who we put in harm's way with the appropriate protection that they need to fight the battles that they need to win. I mean, if you look at the way the Pentagon spends money, you end up in situations where we build a $43 million gas station in Afghanistan. It's a natural gas station in a country that doesn't have natural gas cars. Or you look at a poor woman who has to buy for her husband in Afghanistan a $600 Kevlar vest because we don't equip our soldiers properly. And so, we spend all this money. We don't really have the money to take any hard positions with any credibility.
All right, so you've not answered my question. Let me ask it over. Maybe it wasn't clear. If you were in Congress, would you be able to back a broker deal in Syria where Syria would join the fight against ISIS, where Assad stayed in power, or are you one of those that believe that Assad has to go? It's an up or down question.
No, I understand what you're saying. The problem is, again, you're looking at a region that every time we cut a deal over there, and every time we've cut a deal over there, we've ended up, causing more problems than we've solved. The one thing that I always go back to is I look at Reagan and what he did when he bombed Libya. Gaddafi became almost like a clandestine ally in keeping us up to speed on what we needed to know over there. And yet, what did we do? We took him out of power. So the more we change power regimes, the more we create problems. So we're better off defending ourselves at home, defending ourselves against the threat at homes, and not taking hard positions that I think are going to affect the in ways that may be more negative than positive.
I hate to ask this 3 times, Pat, but I'm just trying to get a straight answer. So it seems like what you're saying is that you would not be in opposition to a deal that we made with Syria that didn't include getting rid of Assad.
I am not in opposition of, well, here's my problem, John. Again, it's hard for me to answer. I'm not given the briefings, the intelligent briefings that folks like current congressmen get. So there are probably things I don't know that are going on over there. But I'm all about, safety to Americans first, and then we'll deal with regimes second. But we have to be very careful in how we deal with things over there because that's thousands of years of history.
Right.
It's not like it happened overnight over there.
I want to get to Congressman Forbes. He says, look, I need to get back to Congress because without me, we might lose one of our aircraft carriers to Jacksonville. That would cost the region hundreds of millions of dollars in economic activity. How do you respond to that?
Well, I mean, he's not going to explain to you that those decisions in terms of the ships are made by the Senate Budget Committee and the House Appropriations Committee, and that the real horse trading that goes on is between those committees to hammer out the final details. And he has no influence over that. Secondly, he talks about being chair of the Armed Services Committee. Well, the actual place where they have term limits is on committees, but he's not in line, assuming we have control of the House. He's not in line to be chairman until 2021. And even then, he still has to win the vote. So, once again, he's not, honest and accountable when it comes to that issue, and he acts as if being there 15 years in the 4th District means that he's going to be able to control what happens just by himself, and that's just not true.
This week, one Marine, Pat, was killed by ISIS. Obama is now sending additional troops to that base. Any president in 2016 who takes office in 2017, regardless of who it is going to have to make a decision on whether or not to commit additional troops to fight ISIS in the Middle East. Again, this is an up or down question. If a President Cruz, President Trump, President Clinton, President Sanders went to Congress with an AUMF authorization of military force with an argument and said, we need 50,000, 100,000 troops, how would you be inclined to make a decision on that?
Well, I know you say it's an up and down question, and I'll get there, but to be completely honest, it's not one of those things that it's almost like being a Supreme Court nominee and saying if you're presented with the fact, how would you vote? I would have to see what the intelligence says. The bottom and most important line is that we've appropriately equipped our men and women to fight exactly as they were trained to do so. In other words, I don't want to hear about Navy SEALs going over there with rifles that are fitted for another Navy SEAL because they didn't have enough rifles to buy for our Navy SEALs. Mm-hmm. So I'm inclined to support the president if it makes sense, but again, we need to take care of home first and take care of our troops and make sure they're in the best position to complete whatever mission they're assigned.
Are you in favor of continuing to award HB1 and HB5 visas for foreign workers, or are you in favor of closing it down in the short term?
Well, considering that, are you talking about the Trump issue?
Yes.
Or are you talking about?
Yes. Foreign workers on foreign visas.
Look, we have a tremendous problem in vetting people that come over here. And we gave a very easy pass to a terrorist without even looking at her Facebook page, and then claimed that, well, we didn't look at her Facebook page, yet we arrested a Marine, for without warrant, without charges for posts that he made on his Facebook page. President Obama did that, and so we don't vet properly, and until we vet properly, it's difficult to take anybody in here that's not vetted properly.
Pat, do you believe that the influx of HB1 and HB5 visas for foreign workers, do you believe we need foreign workers, or do you believe that they come at the expense of American jobs?
I think that they come to the expense of American jobs. I'm getting tired. I mean, obviously, to the extent there's people with very significant specialties in a field, that's certainly different. But, in terms of a lot of the jobs, I don't understand this nonsense that Americans don't want to work. I don't buy it. I don't buy it for 1 minute. If you look at our unemployment numbers and the people who have given up looking for work, our real unemployment number is much higher than anybody's willing to admit to. And so for that reason alone, I just don't buy it. I don't buy the idea that people don't want to work.
I'm with you on that one. We're out of time. I want to thank Pat Cardwell for being with us. He is a candidate for Congress, 2nd District. Pat, what's your website?
PatCardwell.com. Please visit. Please donate. Thank you very much.
PatCardwell.com.